All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our October information session. We're really happy to have you here. Right, so let me get started with our slides here. We're going to go into a little program overview where I'll kind of discuss what we'll be talking about today, and then we'll introduce all of ourselves and our special guests. And since we have a smaller crowd today, we may also pass it to some of you if you're able to share some information about yourselves so we can get to know you a little better. Right. So firstly, I am Jennifer Jansen. I am the program coordinator for the Addiction Policy and Practice program. What that means is I help support graduate students from application to graduation through recruitment and admission support, academic advising, and other various programmatic needs. So I'm a good resource for questions about the program and application logistics overall. From here, I will pass it off to Professor LaBelle, who is the program director.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Regina LaBelle, and I direct the program, and I'm a professor in the program. I teach the integrative seminar as well as the capstone program, and have been in this role since we started the program in 2021. With that, I will pass it to Dr. Myers.
Hi, I'm Adam Myers. I'm a longtime medical science educator, researcher, and administrator at Georgetown, and I've also been here from the beginning of the program, helping out to get this program off the ground and enjoying every minute of it. And I welcome you all and happy to be interacting with you this morning.
Right, great. I'll pass it now to Michael, our special guest for today.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael Shea. I'm a graduate of the fourth cohort of this program, so I graduated earlier this year in the summer. Um, I'm from Iowa. I went to the University of Iowa for undergrad. I got my degrees in English and philosophy, and then I also hold a JD with a health law concentration from St. Louis University. And then I found this program. So I lost my father to a substance use disorder while I was in law school and realized how little I knew actually about substance use disorders and this field of work. So I got extremely interested in this program, hopped on one of these calls about 2 years ago today, and now I'm super happy to be an alumni of this program. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're happy to have you back with us. Now, if you have a moment, we'd love to hear from you guys. If people are able to come off of mute, they're welcome to introduce themselves briefly, or if you're not, you can type in the chat a little bit about yourself, maybe where you went to school or what brings you to this info session today.
I'll go if everybody can hear me.
Awesome.
My name's Greg Hagel. I'm currently a teacher in the DC area in Bethesda at a private school called Mater Day, and I'm really enjoying it. It's my second year here teaching. I have taught in the past for about 13 or 14 years, but I stepped away for a couple of years, to be honest, to get some things together myself. And I struggle with alcoholism, so I'm now sober 3.5 years. And my father as well, like Michael mentioned, passed away from this disorder at 56 in 2020. And in 2020, I was kind of pointing the finger at him, and here I am struggling with the same thing. So I got sober in 2022, and things have been much better. I'm interested in the program because I'm in the area, and I was just researching what schools have a robust program in addiction, and I was interested in this one. I've looked some other places, and to be quite honest, I really like Georgetown, honestly. So I wanted to check it out, and I'm excited to be here. And thanks everybody for sharing your what you do. And I'm looking forward to hearing more. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I just joined the meeting. I hope everyone is well. I just wanted to ask a question. Are we like saying something about ourselves? Because I've heard you say that either we can write in the chat or you can either like put your microphone on and you can maybe say something. I just wanted to confirm so I can just know.
Yeah, that's correct. We're just an introduction, so we wanted, if people felt comfortable, for them to introduce and say a little bit about themselves.
Okay. I don't know if it's okay if I can maybe say a little bit about myself.
Yeah, go
Um,
ahead.
Thank you. So again, everyone, hi. My name is Vanira Monjiro Kihoisia. I am speaking from Kenya at the moment, so I'm all the way in Africa. I really admire the school. Um, in the season of applying for my master's, so maybe a little bit about myself. So yes, I'm Kenyan. I came to Kalamazoo College. I studied in Kalamazoo College, partially. I did some, some subjects like epidemiology, language and acquisition, issues in public health, psychology. Psychology, really enjoyed it. There's such a big comparison, or no, big difference between learning in America and learning in Kenya. So it was so beautiful and amazing. And I just knew from that point, like, I just really want to study for my master's there because I feel like the education is so rich. I feel like the professors are very well thought and that they give you space to have ideas. I feel like from the country I am in, as much as our education system is not bad, like it's like you're in a box, but I feel like education there is more like there's endless possibilities. So why this program? I had the opportunity after studying in Kalamazoo College to be an operations director in a um home for women who were addicted to drugs. So I was like doing the house manager work, taking them to their parole or probation officers. So kind of like doing their daily life. And just seeing this program, just it made me see that there are so many policies that need to be addressed or introduced to be able to make these people who have like gone through this life because one thing I've noticed, having also a father who is still addicted to alcohol, like they want to change. I would attend the meetings, and it was just like they're just beautiful people who want different. And if I can be able to be part of that change and make a difference, that's why I'm really interested in the program. So I do have kind of an experience with in this field a little bit. I did it for about 8 months, came home, and I've just wanted to maybe do a research paper, the disparity between like addiction in America and here, and also how aging affects. So in the field of gerontology. So that's maybe a little bit about myself. But yeah, currently just finished. I finished my bachelor's in social work. So I feel like merging this like will be such a perfect addition. So yeah, thank you all for having me. And I know we'll have an amazing info session. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing with us. I'm going to read Emma's introduction as well in the chat. Emma said she is a junior in Georgetown's College of Arts and Sciences. We're really happy to have a Georgetown undergrad here. Welcome. She's majoring in government and psychology and plans to pursue a master's degree. This is an issue she's very passionate about, but never heard about this program before, so very excited to learn more. Well, we're happy to help you out today. Great. Haley, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you like, but no worries if you would prefer not to.
I can say a quick hello if that's okay.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, let me turn on my camera.
That's great.
Did it work? Can you see me? Hello.
Yes.
Hello,
Wow.
my name is Hallie. Um, I just graduated from the George Washington University with a major in human services and social justice. And I found this program just while looking through Georgetown's master's programs, and I'd never heard about anything like it. And I grew up with addiction affecting many of my loved ones. And if I did end up um, attending this program, I would love to focus on youth advocacy for children of addicts because I was one.
Great. Thanks so much for introducing yourself.
Of course. Nice to meet you all. Hello.
Great. Nice to meet everyone. It's wonderful that we have a lot of people from different kind of backgrounds, experiences on this call, which, as you'll see, is something that's kind of something we see in our cohorts as well, is people are affected by this issue on all sides, passionate about it on all sides. And it makes for really great and interesting conversations.
Excuse Jennifer, could I
Mhm.
say one quick thing?
Yes.
I didn't know if I was spoke too long, but I want to just mention that where I went to school. I graduated from Northwestern University in 2008, so I'm a bit older. I just turned 40, and I wanted to mention that because I have since then become a teacher, although my degree was in communication. So I've kind of been around and just done a lot of different things. I've also too worked in recovery myself, and just wanted to throw that out there so I didn't forget. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. We do have a good amount of alumni who are kind of like mid-career when they entered the
Yeah.
program as well. So we could definitely get you in touch with some of them if you're interested in their perspective. Great. I'll pass it now to Professor LaBelle to talk a little bit about the faculty that make up our program.
Sure. Thanks, Jenny. And thanks everybody for introducing themselves and telling us more about yourselves. Jenny will go over in the admissions process what we look for. And as was said, we have people who are right out of college all the way to folks who have had other careers. So our professors are real. I mean, I'm so excited about the people who have just agreed to teach in this program because they really are leaders in the field. And when you're in the program, you're hearing from people who are researchers, but also individuals who are professionals who are pursuing addiction policies. We'll start with Dr. Amanda Lattimore, who is affiliated with Johns Hopkins. She's also has a new company that she just started. She's an epidemiologist. She teaches the epidemiology class in the fall. Dr. Brandon Del Pozo is assistant professor at Brown University. He teaches comparative approaches to addiction policy in summer 2. But Dr. Del Pozo, this is a second career for him. He was a law enforcement professional. He was a detective in NYPD, and then he was the chief of police in Vermont. And then went on to get a PhD and writes. He's a prolific researcher and writer. Dr. Wilson Compton, who is the deputy director of the National Institute on Drugs of Abuse at the National Institutes of Health. He teaches Foundations of Addiction 1 and Foundations of Addiction 2, which is in the fall and the spring. Next slide, please. Dr. Emily Einstein is now actually now at the American Society of Addiction Medicine. She teaches fundamentals of neurobiology in the fall. Again, another prolific researcher. Dr. Christopher Jones is with the Public Health Service. He is at the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. He teaches data and statistics of drug policy, which is in both summers. He has written numerous pieces, including, as some of you might be interested in, a piece with Dr. Compton on the number of people who lost parents due to overdose deaths from a 5-year period. Dr. Talid El-Sabawy is a professor at St. Louis University. She brought us Michael Shea, and she was at the time at St. Louis. Now she's at another university in Michigan. She teaches U.S. addiction policy, which is kind of the intro class that we'll talk more about. Next slide, please. And then to round this out, we have 2 additional people who teach. Shelley Weissman, who teaches mental health law and addiction law and policy. She teaches that in the spring. Shelley is also the deputy director at the O'Neill Institute's Addiction and Public Policy Initiative, where I also work. She's a person in long-term recovery and is very active on recovery issues, and also we write a lot of pieces together. And then finally, Elizabeth Connolly is with Winning Strategies Washington. She was in the Chris Christie administration in New Jersey, the head of their health department. She then went on to serve as the public health director at the Office of National Drug Control Policy in the last 4 years. She left last year, and she teaches healthcare financing, which is a preliminary class you have in the first summer. Next slide, please. So, this program is the only one of its kind in the country. If you're interested in clinical issues relating to addiction, there are lots of those programs where you can get a license to be a clinical, a counselor, etc. this class is program is specifically focused on improving the nation's approach to addiction policy. And what that means is that we're giving people not just the science of addiction, but also policy making. How do you make policies work? And how do you get policies passed? So not just, the how a bill becomes a law piece, but how do you work with stakeholders? How do you make sure that you're evaluating policies? And the reason we've started this program is it'd been kind of a dream of mine since I started working in this field. I identified a lot of policies that were based on either stigma or based on one person's experience and not on science and evidence. And I had a long time feeling that if we could kind of train people, educate people about how policies are made so that we're not just saying this should happen, but we're figuring out how it can happen. I worked as legal counsel to the mayor of Seattle for 8 years, so worked a lot on addiction issues there, and then came to the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy in the Obama era and served also in the Biden era at the same office. And so that's really what brought me to working with folks at Georgetown to develop this program. And as you'll hear from Michael, the point of this is to make sure that when people start working, they're hitting the ground running and they're not kind of learning on the job or learning the wrong way over 4 or 5 years. Next slide, please. So let me tell you a little bit about the program overview. This is a picture of Erin Sibel Sezgin, who graduated in 24. She served in the Biden administration and now is applying to law school. Next slide, please. So the program is 30 credits. It's 1 year, and that's a very condensed year, as Michael can tell you. You start summer 1, you end summer 2, and then you have classes throughout the year. And the reason we did this is because we wanted to make sure that we weren't building a program that would cost people so much that if they chose, they wouldn't have flexibility for where they worked. We have full-time and part-time options. I'll go over that in a minute. And it is the only degree of its kind. There are other programs where you can get a master's in public health and you can have a concentration in behavioral health studies. That's certainly available, but this really is very dedicated to working in the field of addiction policy. And we teach people about substance use as well as gambling disorder. Those are the two identified disorders in the DSM-5, which we talk about in the program. Next slide, please.
Another thing to note just before I move on to is the total tuition rate has an asterisk mark next to it because this is the rate for the current cohort. We do not have a current approved tuition rate for the 2026 academic year, but typically the Board of Trustees votes to increase it about 4% on average each year at Georgetown. So if you want to do some calculation on your own, that's a good way to anticipate it. But as we go through the year and the admission cycle, we'll have more information on that confirmed rate.
And this is a reduced rate. The Georgetown has provided a discount for this program, and so we're basically it's a level set that's lower than everyone else's. And as a result, we don't have scholarship programs, but we do have a reduced rate for the program. So let me tell you a little bit about the classes that are offered. In summer 1, you have healthcare financing, U.S. addiction policy, and data and statistics. This is kind of a level set for classes for the fall. In the fall, you take neurobiology, the integrative seminar, and the integrative seminar. So, for example, last week we had students here from it's 2 hours and 45 minutes on Friday afternoons, and we do try to break that up, but it's intended to, again, be the mixing bowl where you learn policy making and you can apply your science and evidence that you're learning in other classes. and Foundations of Addiction Psychiatry 1 with Dr. Compton, and then Social Epidemiology with Professor Lattimore. In the spring, Addiction and Mental Health Law and Policy, the Integrative Seminar again, and Foundations of Addiction Psychiatry 2. And then you take a policy elective. So, Georgetown has a robust policy program. You can take a class in those other schools. Some students on occasion have taken classes in the medical center or in the law center. And then summer 2 is in person. I forgot to mention that. Summer 1 is virtual. Those 3 classes are taught online. And the reason for that is because we start earlier and we want to give you time to come to campus. Summer 2 is in person, comparative approaches taught by Dr. Del Pozo. And this, you learn about Portugal's approach, you learn other countries' approach to addiction policy, data analysis and statistics, and then finally a mentored capstone. And the capstone is a topic of your choosing, and you write a paper, but also there's a policy project attached to that paper. And it's kind of the culmination of, what you're passionate about, but a culmination of the year. Michael, I don't know if you want to say what your topic was and anything more about the full-time schedule.
Yeah, definitely. So the mentored capstone, as Professor LaBelle said, you're paired with a mentor in this space to kind of help you navigate what you really want to talk about, make sure you're not going astray. So for my capstone, I wrote a paper and policy proposal about reducing, about so for eligibility requirements to participate in drug courts, they're catered towards people who really only have like one misdemeanor. They don't allow many people with felonies or many people with multiple priors. So I wrote a paper about reducing those eligibility requirements because most people, through my research and evidence, that would benefit most from drug courts are people with felonies and multiple priors. So that was, in a nutshell, excuse me, my capstone. Um, and then overall, Professor LaBelle asked me to try to pick a favorite class, and I mentioned before this that felt like a trick question because all of these classes are so, so amazing. And the professors are just so knowledgeable, as she, mentioned earlier. And we have amazing guest lecturers come to, I think every class we had some sort of guest lecture in some fashion or another, talk about their specific niche field and what they're doing in addiction policy. So if you have any questions specifically about any classes or, about the seminar or capstone, I'm more than happy to answer them. But all of these classes are just absolutely amazing. And if any of them sound kind of intimidating, I remember when I was on this call for the first time when I was interested in this program, the neurobiology course, sounded intimidating for someone who comes from an English and legal background, but they make sure that you really are with them the whole way. Make sure that you're understanding what's going on. So if any of them sound intimidating, I promise they're not.
Thanks, Michael. Next slide, please. This is the part-time schedule. So part-time, it accommodates people who are obviously working full-time. Right now, we have 4 part-time students. 2 will finish this year and 2 will finish next year. And this is the, addiction policy, data analysis. The fall, you take 2 classes, spring, again, 2 classes. So it's basically 2 throughout a 2-year and 6-week program. You finish up with your mentored capstone and your comparative approaches to addiction policy at the end. This is what we suggest. If for some reason your schedule, your work schedule doesn't allow for this, it can be, we can move things around. This is not a big program. This year we have 14 students, which allows us to be somewhat pretty flexible in terms of the classes that you choose to take in the part-time program. Next slide, please. So where do our students work? So Right now we're in a kind of a tough spot in DC where a lot of positions have been terminated. Rifts have occurred in the federal government. However, there are two things that, first of all, our students are working literally all across the country. We have students in Washington State, in Oregon, in Illinois, alumni rather, Florida, all across the country. And also because of my work at the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, I have myself and all of our professors have contacts nationwide. So if you're coming from a different part of the country, we can connect you with mentors in those different parts of the country. I also, through my work at the O'Neill Institute, have some international contacts. So that's another, those are other angles. This is a picture of our alumnus, Ben Freyfeld, who was in our inaugural class. He works for Maryland's Office of Opioid Litigation Settlement. He works on the settlement board. And this is a picture of him training the governor and lieutenant governor of Maryland on how to use naloxone. So as you can see, about 30% work in nonprofit organizations like the American Society of Addiction Medicine, American Medical Association, about 25% for state government, and then about 20% for the federal government. This slide is based on information we collected a couple of years ago. A few of our alumni have been subject to the RIFs, but they have gone on to get other jobs. We also are very bipartisan in this program. This is a nonpartisan issue. Again, I worked in the Biden administration. I had other students work in that administration, but we have someone who worked on the Trump transition team who is still actively engaged in the Trump administration. Next, and also right now in October, we connect students with mentors, career mentors. So we're doing that right now. And what we ask, Jenny will sends out a questionnaire to students and say what are the skills, what kind of career mentor are you interested in? We connect people. I just connected someone today who wants to go on for his PhD. I connected him with someone who is a PhD professor at a university. Connecting someone else who wants to work on cannabis issues, connecting him with someone. Michael, you want to talk a little bit about your career mentor?
Yeah, definitely. So Professor LaBelle is a magician at matching you with a mentor that like truly fits. I remember sending in my questionnaire being like, oh, I sent in like a long list of, kind of components of someone that I would like. And I was like, I'll be happy if I, get matched with like someone who has like two of these qualities. And Professor LaBelle was like, oh, like you mean Joey Longley, like just matched all of them. Um, and so my mentor is an attorney with the ACLU here in DC. And so I would just meet with him pretty periodically, like about once a month or every 2 to 3 weeks, just to kind of touch base with him, ask him any questions about, my future career path. Or I would even talk to him just about like, can you briefly read over this, paper or policy proposal that I'm submitting for one of the classes? And super, really handy, especially when once you submit that questionnaire too, you get a good idea of what you may be wanting to do after this program. So they're definitely fit to help you figure out how to navigate that, where to apply, who to talk to. Like just through my mentor, I probably had at least a dozen different coffee chats with other people just through this one connection. They're super helpful. And yeah, Professor LaBelle just knows a vast amount of people, as do all of the professors in this program as well.
Thanks for
we
sharing,
try to,
Michael.
yeah, thanks, Michael. We try to live by the motto that the opposite of addiction is connection. And this is not a big field, just like our program is not a big program. And this is a community really invested in the students. There's a lot of people in the addiction policy field who know about this program, understand it, and are really committed to helping the students achieve what they want to achieve, both during the program and after.
Definitely. And the exciting thing about this too is the career mentor is not the same as the capstone advisor. So this is someone you carry with you throughout your time in the program and even beyond that. So it's really a mentor that's there for you and not just for your project.
So, our students have been involved both in the community. Actually, Michael just participated in the Shatterproof Walk on Saturday with a bunch of alumni and a couple current students from the program. We have in the past been, and actually I think this year as well, our students have attended various recovery events and prevention events at the White House, have participated in recovery walks, and other conferences, um, and distributed naloxone in the community. We also have annually Georgetown Day. For those of you, one of you at least is an undergrad, knows what Georgetown Day is. It's a pretty big day of drinking on campus. And not everyone, maybe people in recovery on campus, there may be people who just don't want to drink. And so our Hoyas for Recovery program, which started a few years ago with students in the program who are in recovery, students at the university who are in recovery or allies, had a tent with where they distributed information about Hoyas for Recovery, as well as various beverages that taste good, are non-alcoholic, something other than just seltzer and soda. And we coordinate a lot with an organization, a DC-based sober bar called Binge Bar, to distribute distribute non-alcoholic beverages, as well as we've also distributed naloxone. We just had a big event on campus on October 7th with Mobilize Recovery. Our students distributed naloxone. They distributed fentanyl test strips. We had a campus recovery event and panel with current and former students to talk about Hoyas for Recovery. So there's just, we can keep you busy all the time. There's as many or as few activities as you'd like to participate in. Michael, I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different events, and I think with this program too, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So if there's an event and you might feel tired that day or something, I still recommend just get dressed, get a coffee, and go to the event. The amount of people that you meet at these is amazing, and the connections that they have too, and the stories. As Professor LaBelle said earlier, the opposite of addiction is community, and that holds so true with this program. Like there's endless amounts of things for us to go to get involved with, whether that just be like a community event or going to a hearing or hearing one of our professors testify. There's always something that we can do to go to and learn more.
We also just had a roundtable on October 7th in the afternoon with Congressman Madeline Dean, who is a member of Congress from Pennsylvania, as well as Congressman Bacon, who is a member of Congress from Nebraska. He appeared remotely, and Congresswoman Dean was in the class. So, again, we can help you build those connections while you're in the program.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing some wonderful stories about the program. We'll have a Q&A for everyone, but before that, I will pivot to a little bit of admissions overview so you know what to expect when submitting an application to the program and what we're looking for when you apply. So first of all, here is a handy application checklist for you. Feel free to screenshot this or take a picture if that's helpful for you. But you can also find all of this information whenever you'd like it on our website on our Prospective Students tab. Right now, what we require is first a completed application form. This is completed, on gradapply.georgetown.edu, which is the normal graduate application for Georgetown University. You'll select our program through there and then proceed. We require an application fee, which is waived before January 15th, 2026, which is our priority deadline. So this is a great time to be thinking about the program because it is free to apply until that date. Afterwards, that fee will be $90. Next up, we require a academic statement of purpose that's approximately 500 words that discusses your academic journey, what brought you to apply to the program, and what you hope to get out of it. Although it's listed as optional because we're a small program that really has the time to go over everyone's application in detail, we do strongly urge you to fill out the personal background statement, which is the same amount of words and also gives you an opportunity to expand on your personal background and experiences and how they contribute to your interest in the field. This is a great way to demonstrate that you'll be an active contributor in our community, and we really welcome any opportunity to get to know you more through the application. Next up, we require your resume or curriculum vitae, followed by 2 letters of recommendation. If you're early in your education or currently completing an undergraduate degree, we would love to have at least 1 recommendation from an academic you've worked with, like a professor. But we do have students and applicants who are long out of school or mid-career, so we will accept 1 or both letters from a trusted professional, such as someone you've worked with, if you're unable to do so. We will also, it's important to note, accept the names and emails of recommenders by the deadline, even if they have not uploaded their letters yet. So you do not need to have the recommendation letters in hand to submit an application. It'll still be considered on time, and you have a few weeks of buffer for your recommenders to actually submit those letters on your behalf once you give us their contact info. There's also a way through the portal to check the status of those letters and send reminders to the recommenders. As soon as it's available, we'll also need a transcript with your undergraduate degree on it if that's something you're currently completing. We will accept unofficial transcripts by the priority and regular application deadlines, but just note that before the start of classes, we will need an official transcript sent to us by your school in order to make everything official. Finally, if you attended a school for undergraduate study where English was not the primary language of instruction, we require a demonstration of English language proficiency through a test. So you'll see on the right in that blue box there, the minimum scores required on the 2 types of tests we accept, the TOEFL and the IELTS test, to be considered proficient in the English language for the purposes of submitting your application. You'll also see on that right side that we do not require the GRE exam. So what does it take to be considered eligible for the program? First of all, we require that applicants hold a bachelor's degree or equivalent from an accredited institution. This should be equivalent, if you're an international student, to a 4-year degree of undergraduate study in the United States. If you're not sure, you can complete a credential evaluation service such as WES, which is Georgetown's preferred credential evaluation service, and send that in to us so we can ensure that your transcripts match the bachelor's degree requirement. Next up, this is a very passionate program and everyone in it is really excited about what we do. So any way you can demonstrate interest in addiction policy is great. You can show interest in public policy, social science, healthcare, or community service. All of that is strongly preferred, and consideration will also be given to individuals with lived experience. So if you want to expand on your personal background and experiences, your volunteer work, your school work, the work you've done in your employment, all of that is a great way to show your interest in this field. Finally, we do require a minimum grade point average of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale as required by the Office of Graduate Studies. With all of this being said, I do want to draw your attention to that holistic review blue box in the corner. Because this is something that we really hold close to our heart. We have students who have come straight from undergraduate study, we've had mid-career professionals, and we've had a number of students with experience with substance use and in long-term recovery. So with our small cohort size and this mission-driven nature of the program, we do really want to get to know you, and we know that you may have a different professional or academic journey than other ones in our cohort. So if you are concerned about any of these eligibility requirements, we do encourage you to reach out to us directly via our email, addictionpolicy@georgetown.edu, or reach out to me directly because if you feel that you're an otherwise compelling applicant, we are able to make appeals to the Graduate Studies Office on your behalf. So let me get to those application deadlines I alluded to. The priority deadline is January 15th, 2026. And if you submit your application by this date, that application fee is waived. Classes will begin for this cohort in July 2026. That won't change whether you apply to the priority or regular deadline. Regular deadline, everything's the same. It's just we'll be reviewing applications on a rolling basis until April 1st of 2026, and the application fee for that deadline is $90. Finally, I'll talk a little bit about financial aid. As I mentioned, our academic year 2026 tuition is not confirmed yet, but it is likely a 4% increase to last year's rate. It is rare for a master's program to be fully covered by merit aid or other forms of aid alone. And since our program is offered at a discounted rate for all applicants, we don't have internal scholarship offerings. So we do recommend searching for additional sources of funding early. Beginning search early with external scholarships is great. A good amount of scholarship deadlines for the following year are in October, so this is a great time to be searching. There are applications out there to help you, like ProFellow and Scholarships 360 for searching. And also, there are some internal Georgetown resources, such as the Office of Graduate Studies External Fellowships and Scholarships webpage. There are also teaching assistant and research assistant jobs available. However, these are handled as typical student positions, so these don't have extra tuition benefits or room and board if that's something you're thinking about. But however, there are a good amount of opportunities for student employment across the university. It can be a good way to look into different programs, see what they're doing. For example, I'm working with a student in the Communications, Culture, and Technology master's program for some of our digital support and social media outreach for this program. The Office of Student Financial Aid is also here to help you with any questions about financial aid and deadlines and tips for applying to external scholarships. If you are eligible for Veterans Affairs benefits, we recommend you contact the GU Veteran Service for more information on starting that application process. The free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, is in fact free and available for domestic graduate students to apply to. This is a great thing to fill out because it is free and you can find yourself eligible for low interest federal student loans or federal work study status. So those are good things to know. The Graduate Career Center also offers a number of resources to find and apply to external fellowships and scholarships. And as soon as you're enrolled, you are able to apply for on-campus jobs through the GMS or Workaday portal. If you're looking for employment outside of the university, the minimum wage in DC is $17.95 for most workers as well, which it can be a good way to supplement expenses. If you are continuing employment and pursuing part-time study with the program, it's also a good idea to reach out to your employer and see if they have any available tuition benefits for you to take advantage of. And finally, the Office of Revenue and Receivables offers monthly installment payment plans for tuition. You can sign up for that through the billing portal for Georgetown. All right, so thank you so much for listening to us today. It's really a pleasure to have you. I'll pass it off now to our audience to see if you have any questions for us. Feel free to use the raise hand function, go off of mute, or type in the chat if you have a question. All right, I see one raised hand. Gregory, feel free to go off of mute.
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. My question was regarding start time of the program. If I was interested more in 2027, is it okay to be moving along in the process? Some are starting at least.
Yeah, I mean, we have some students defer and you can apply this year and then defer. You have to apply to defer though, because the class makeup changes every year. If you were not to complete your application though, you'd have to restart. Is that correct, Dr. Myers?
Yeah, that is correct. What I suggest is, that if you're not sure, go ahead and look at the application and, take screenshots, start to fill in maybe and copy stuff and, you'll have it handy that way, and you'll know what you're getting into. And sometimes it's hard to figure out who you're going to ask references of and stuff. If you have all that stuff in your head early, that's going to help you, whether it's this cycle or next cycle.
Thank you very much. That makes sense to me. I looked into some social work policy and some different programs before, and I've done two other applications similar. I with the job I'm in right now teaching, I'd like to spend a little more time with my feet on the ground here before I possibly look into school. So I just wanted to get some information early, and you guys are very knowledgeable. It's obvious that you're passionate about what you guys do, so I love that. One other question I had, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm interested in people in underserved, populations when they come out of a 30-day program, or maybe if it's a 60-day program, even them entering back into the world where they came from, and how that could look in a way that we could help people get into more like a residential type situation. And I wrote about this before, and I guess I'm just looking to see if there's an avenue I should be focused on in order to do that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, so the topic that you're talking about is covered, throughout the program, certainly in social epidemiology, as well as in, mental health and addiction law and policy. And there's a National Association of Recovery Residences. They set standards, and then, states obviously look at it's step down services. American Society of Addiction Medicine sets the standards for it. So there are a variety of angles. There's the advocacy angle. There's also kind of the standard setting angle and the government piece. But there are avenues there.
Thank you. I watched a lot of gentlemen that I worked with do so well for a short time and be exposed back to where things started, and it went downhill. So I'd love to be able to help those folks. But thank you for sharing that. And maybe I'll reach out separately through email. Is that okay?
Sure.
Dr. Myers and you? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks for your questions. Anyone else has questions? Feel free to go off mute, raise your hand, type in the chat.
Sorry, I couldn't find the button.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead.
Professor Lavelle, you are amazing. Your Wikipedia page was really fun to read. I was wondering if you would feel comfortable sharing a little bit about yourself and why you decided on this field and the process of starting this program, even though I'm sure you say the same thing every year. I would love to hear it this year.
Well, thanks. I actually don't talk about this that much. I mean, I am not in recovery. I have family members who are, close family members who are. I started out my career as a labor lawyer, and I think all of this is very connected, very interconnected. And so I've been very interested for years and years. I come from a very blue collar background. I worked in factories to get myself through college. And I knew that the people that I grew up with were the ones that were left behind, and addiction is one of those areas that has really been overlooked as part of, in the social justice realm. And I worked in government, for 16, 17 years. I kind of lost track. And it would frustrate me when I saw people who would put these policies together that had no basis in science. I'm a lawyer, not a scientist, but I knew just enough to know what I didn't know. And so, and I was really fortunate to work with Michael Botticelli, who is a real hero to me. He was the first drug czar to be in recovery, openly in recovery. And as well as Gil Kurlikowski. Gil was a police chief in Seattle. So seemingly polar opposites who understood how we needed to change drug policy in the United States. But the only way I knew to sustain the change is to make sure that we have a cadre of people working in addiction policy who are committed to making the change based on science and evidence and who gut it. who understood that we have to be in this for the long haul. There's no like overnight solutions to the issue, and you can't be an activist tourist. You got to stay in it for a long time. So that's kind of the long and the short of it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your question. Vanita, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing. This was so informational. Um, I think I do have maybe 2, 3 questions. The first question would be any maybe link or resource for international students. I don't know if there's any international student present in the meeting today, but maybe just any pointers towards that. And then another thing, I think one of the things that I was really passionate about when I was working with Healthy House. It's in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And one of the things that were interesting were the Narcotics Anonymous meetings. And I just wanted to ask, is that something that maybe the students go to? I feel like sitting there as an operations director gave me perspective. Like, I believe in like a person being whole inside and whole, externally. So like I got to see perspective of the ladies from an internal standpoint, because that was like their safe space and they allowed me to be there. They allowed me to hear their stories. They allowed me to hear their experiences. They were sharing their struggles. They're sharing how the legal system is, challenging or oppressing or whatever the case may be. So is that something that you kind of like integrate the students in? Because I really enjoyed that. And if not, are there like kind of replicas of something like that apart like from events?
Thanks for asking, Vanita. I'll let Jenny put something in about a link on international students. We have a current member of this cohort who is from the country of Colombia, and we've had another student who is from Georgia, the country of Georgia. So we have had international students in the past. And there are visa requirements, et cetera, and those have to go through Georgetown. There's an Office of International Student Services. As for your question about, kind of the students are looking at what type of curriculum we have about the student experience with the community and community-based organizations. We make a real point of making sure that our students understand what's happening in the District of Columbia, where Georgetown's located. DC has one of the highest rates of overdose death in the country, and often ignored. We don't really think about that. We think about West Virginia, we think about Kentucky, we don't think about DC. So in the second semester of the program of the class I teach, the integrative seminar, each student has to go to a community organization. And I'll let Michael talk about his experience in that in a sec. So it could be, it could be a recovery house. It could be potentially a clinic. We've had students, if they are invited by others, attend an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, if it's a public meeting. And then they have to come back to the class and talk about it and connect that program with the policies that we're learning. How could the program be improved? What does it say about policy, et cetera? So I'll let Michael talk about his experience in that.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Thank you for the question too. So I was invited to an AA meeting through a friend who is in long-term recovery, which was really just an amazing experience, especially the one I went to in DC. So one of my interests, as well as I focus on LGBTQ plus issues, the intersection of queer issues with substance use disorders. So I went to a queer AA meeting as well and was able to, think about what we discussed and compare it to other AA meetings or Al-Anon meetings. So I actually did kind of a comparison of different community support groups. So I like regularly go to grief support groups for people who have lost family members. I've also gone to Al-Anon meetings. I don't do that as regularly. And then I compared that to AA meetings as well. Um, and then was able to present in class just about my experience and, relate it back to policies that we had been discussing. And I think that is one of the best things about this program is as a student, you really get to take the reins on what you really want to lean into more and what you want to be able to do. So you yourself can just go out into the community, attend really, anything that's available to you, and then bring it back to class and present on it. A lot of our classes are focused or have designated time for student discussions to talk about what we've been attending, what we've been researching, just areas about what we're interested in. So they really let us, kind of take the reins on a lot of the class discussions, which I think was probably one of my favorite components of this program is you really do feel like you're hitting the ground running from day one. Like you get to go out and do it and bring it back and then relate it to what you've been learning.
Thanks so much for
Okay.
sharing, Michael.
Oh,
Emma
sorry.
had a quick question, so I'll just read that for a second. How does class size vary from year to year, and what are some benefits of the small class size? Our class size is average, I think, about 12 to 14 students, and we do keep that intentionally small. We don't want to ever have more than 20 students, just because there are some benefits in having this kind of small, tight-knit community, having the cohorts go about their classes together, and that really allows everyone to network effectively, to get involved with a lot of different events, and get us to be able to give you a one-to-one career mentor, which is something that Professor LaBelle organizes herself. She literally matches you with some of her connections in the field. So I'd say those are some of the benefits. Professor LaBelle can expand if she feels like there are any other ones.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's really the personalized attention that comes from from that small cohort, which if it were too big, it would be really hard to do, because it's not, all of our professors, except for myself, are adjuncts. And so it would be hard to do that with that number of adjunct professors.
All right, so I'll put up our contact card in interest of your time since we are going slightly over. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to meet all of you and get to chat a bit about your interests in addiction policy. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You'll see our contact cards up on the screen. You can reach out to that phone number as well as our email, addictionpolicy@georgetown.edu, with any questions about the program, the application process, and anything in between. And I recommend following our social media to really get a sense of what our students are up to in the world, upcoming events, and other opportunities, like our recent campus surge, which was a great event that we could open up to the public. We have a LinkedIn and Instagram page that are both very active. And you'll also see that Michael posted his email in the chat for any questions. So thanks so much for that, Michael. I'm sure that's going to be a really great resource. If you also want to ask about visiting campus, getting a campus tour, being connected with an alum, or to talk more with one of us, like Professor LaBelle, you can also reach out to Addiction Policy at georgetown.edu, and we can set that up. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today, and we really look forward to reading your applications.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great day,
everyone.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.